Hi, I'm Greg Hunter, and this is the weekly news wrap-up for Friday, November 2nd, 2012. Well, I want to talk about Hurricane Sandy, and to the rest of us in the country, you may think with the news reports that everything is going along pretty well and that New Yorkers are tough and that things are going along just fine. Well, I have a good friend of mine who lives on the water in Brooklyn. And you know what he told me? He told me that it's chaos, pandemonium, that certain areas, around him, in Brooklyn where, people are robbing people, they're kicking in doors, that there are certain areas the police cannot, control order, they're evacuating certain areas of Coney Island. None of this is really on the news. And that people are looting in stores and kicking in doors, and that the situation is chaos, at least around where he lives. Certain parts of the city still don't have any power. And get this, the city of New York has decided to continue with the New York City Marathon that's coming up. And New Yorkers are mad. There's no power in certain places, gasoline, mile-long gasoline lines in the New York area and New Jersey, several miles long, that, people that have heat, they don't have water, that there's debris everywhere, there's junk floating around, there's sewage in the water, there's gasoline in the water, and they're still going to have the New York City Marathon. All the staff is going to be working to, basically make sure everybody's comfortable who's there visiting in New York City. Unbelievable, isn't it? I'll tell you, this Hurricane Sandy couldn't have come at a worse time. I mean, durable goods are collapsing, contracting. Real incomes are contracting. The economy is in a tailspin. The Federal Reserve is printing $85 billion a month, not because things are good, because things are bad, and then bam, Sandy happens. And then you hear people on mainstream media talking about, oh, this is going to be a stimulus. Really? Going to be a stimulus? That's like saying in World War II, hey, we firebombed Dresden in Germany, and we leveled it, and boy, can't we really stimulate that economy by rebuilding it? And if that's the case, every time we had a recession, we could just, burn down a quarter of our cities and rebuild them and, wow, get the economy going again. Listen, this is capital that has to be spent. Sure, there'll be some people working. Some people will go back to work. A Home Depot is going to do well. Construction companies are going to do well. And temporarily people are going to go back to work. But that's just to get us back to where we were. That's not really a real boom. That's just, some short-term stimulus spending. And where are we going to get the money for all this spending? This couldn't have hit two more indebted states. Well, I guess it could have hit Texas and California, but the two of the four top indebted states are New York, second to California, then Texas, and then New Jersey is the fourth most indebted state in the nation, 2 and 4. They split about $600 billion in debt. There's no wonder why Governors Cuomo and Christy want the federal government, that's you and me, to pick up the tab. It's absolutely devastating. The winners, as I said, are going to be construction companies. The losers, I'd say just about everybody else. They say, hey, Timmy, we can't buy an iPad or a bicycle this year because we needed to buy a generator. I mean, can you imagine the hits that clothing people are going to take, the restaurants, the airlines, the vacation industry? People are going to be wanting to rebuild their houses and rebuild their lives. There's a lot of people in that area haven't had a flood in a long time. So, hey, who needs flood insurance? They're going to find out that their homeowners won't cover a flood. One of the governors said, well, you need to treat this like a storm, not like a hurricane. Really? Expect the lawsuits to be flying. The insurance company is going to say, hey, this was called Hurricane Sandy. It says right here in the policy, the deductibles are, 5% or whatever, and not $1,000. What a king-sized mess, and happening in the fourth quarter, the most populated area of the country, and the most critical time of the year for retailers. And this hurricane hits. Now, some people say have estimated there'd be $50 billion in damages. Forget that. It'll be at least as big as Katrina. Now, Katrina in Louisiana on the Gulf Coast, Coast, not nearly as populated as New York and New Jersey. Not nearly. And, this is happening at a time where the economy is tail spinning in a couple of states that are heavily indebted. This is going to be a giant drag in the economy. The losers, the retailers, let me tell you, some people are going to lose so big because, this fourth quarter makes or breaks a lot of retailers in the fourth quarter. And some retailers are going to go out of business in 2013. Mark my words. Could this be a little stimulus for certain people, the Home Depots and construction companies? Sure. And that brings me to my next story, the debt ceiling. By the end of the year, we're going to be bouncing against that $16.39 trillion debt ceiling. You think the calls to raise that debt ceiling are going to come fast and furious to pick up the $100 billion plus dollars? Incidentally, I say it's going to be at least as big as Katrina. That's $100 billion. Other people say 200, 250. $300 billion in total damages, loss of production, loss of sales, loss of productivity. It's going to be more in the neighborhood of the real cost to the economy is, going to be $200 to $300 billion. We shall see. But $50 billion, what the estimates are, forget that. Listen, this is way more populated than the Gulf Coast, and I think it's going to be at least as bad as Katrina, if not way worse. And finally, Libya. Libya, there have been charges of a Libyan cover-up, now there's an email that came out in the middle of August that said to the State Department, Hillary Clinton's office, that, hey, they knew that they couldn't defend a coordinated attack. And everybody's like surprised that Al-Qaeda's there. Haven't I been telling you that we basically employed Al-Qaeda, at least partly? We had a general, one of the leaders of the forces that basically booted Gaddafi out of office, that we brought him from the battlefield, that he was in custody, and we turned him loose in Libya, that Al-Qaeda was a big part of the forces that overthrew Colonel Gaddafi, who got shot in the head incidentally after they captured him, which is a war crime. But well, who cares? It's Gaddafi. And everybody's surprised that there's an Al-Qaeda presence in Libya, and that they had live video feeds into the highest offices of the nation, some of the highest offices, the security offices of the nation, and basically an order was given to stand down. Couldn't we have at least attempted to break this up? This went on for hours and hours. One report said we could have had an A-130 gunship, there in a couple hours. I'm not a military expert, but have you ever seen an A-130 gunship in action? They can cut people in half from a mile away. You think, a few thousand rounds shot at these guys, firing mortars, into the compound. You think they could have broke them up? Do you think some Predator drones could have stopped it? And, why didn't we have enough people there to begin with? What did the administration know, and when did they know it? I saw one little billboard on the internet that said two words: Obama and coward. I don't think we'll know all the answers before the election, but the truth is going to come out. And I suspect it's going to be ugly. 4 Americans, including a U.S. ambassador, were assassinated. That's shameful. If calls were given and repeated calls were made by our people in Libya, in Benghazi, at that embassy, repeated calls, and nobody came to help them. Leon Panetta, the defense secretary, said, well, we don't send people into harm's way before we know what's going on. Oh, yeah, let them all die, and then go in and say, wow, it was an assassination, and then try to cover it up. Obviously, there is some sort of cover-up, and we will find out sooner or later. That's the way I see it. I'm Greg Hunter. Thank you for supporting USAWatchdog.com.